Welcome back to the Transform Your Wellness podcast. I'm your host, Karin Hagberg, the Awaken Wellness Warrioress. For those who are new here, the Transform Your Wellness podcast is all about awakening the body, mind, and spirit so we can live healthier, more empowered, and more aligned lives. This podcast is a space where we explore wellness, mindset, frequency, healing, personal transformation, spirituality, conscious living, and purpose-driven entrepreneurship. It's about raising awareness, raising our vibration, and helping people step out of survival mode and into true vitality, freedom, authenticity, and self-empowerment. Through inspiring conversations, powerful stories, and transformational insights, my mission is to help you reconnect to your own inner wisdom, reclaim your energy, and awaken the wellness warrior within. And today's episode of the Transform Your Wellness podcast is called Raising the Frequency, Restoring Health, and Creating Impact. And today I am joined by Malek Emir. He's an entrepreneur, a wellness advocate, and leader in the frequency awakening movement, who's helping families improve their health, energy, and quality of life through innovative wellness technology and personal transformation. After years in the online marketing and crypto space, Malek discovered a deeper mission, combining faith, freedom, wellness, and entrepreneurship to help people break free from survival mode and step into a more purpose-driven life. Through his leadership, communities, and global online platforms, he inspires people to elevate their mindset, protect their energy, and create greater impact for their families and communities. What I love about Malek is his authenticity, his heart for people, and his passion for helping others awaken mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. So today we're going to deep dive into topics around frequency and energy, restoring wellness in a modern world, mindset and awakening, leadership and impact, entrepreneurship with purpose, protecting your energy, and what it truly means to raise your frequency and create a life by design rather than by default. So whether you're listening, driving, walking in nature, or relaxing with a cup of tea, or simply taking a moment for yourself, welcome. Take a deep breath and open your mind, and let's dive in. So I want to welcome you, and I'm so excited to have you here today, Malek. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just say living the dream when people ask me how I am. So I noticed that, we have some synergy already because my bio said something about survival mode and your intro said something about survival mode as well. So it seems like we're already in alignment, but great to be here. And I appreciate you having me on today.
Amazing. So, Malik, for people who don't know you, who are you beyond business and wellness? Tell us a little bit about your upbringing when and where your journey began.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, I'm born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. So some of you listeners may be familiar with that. You might have heard about Pier 39 or something like that. So I'm from that area. And my father and my mother were both born in San Francisco. I was raised in a small town about 35 minutes outside of San Francisco called Palo Alto, where Facebook is today. And it's funny that, the facility where Facebook is right now, my father worked at a company that was on that same facility for about 25 years. And then once technology evolved, Facebook actually took over his company. So it's pretty ironic, but, my upbringing was a pretty good upbringing, I guess you could say. I have seven brothers, and, it was a lot dealing with seven brothers, But at the end of the day, it really taught me the entrepreneurship at a very young age. So by the time that I was in junior high school, that's where my entrepreneurial journey actually started. I was, selling candy. That was the first thing I did when I was in sixth grade, and then from there I evolved to doing music and having some of my CDs in stores. I've done music with popular artists like Snoop Dogg and many others, and I had my own record label and different things like that from the time that I was in high school. So that's a little bit about my upbringing, and from there I kind of transitioned into more different various ways of online entrepreneurship once I got a little bit older.
That's amazing, Malek. There's some things that I had no idea that you had the music in the background as well. And that's obviously frequency based too, isn't it? Music is all about frequencies, eh?
Absolutely, it really is.
Yeah.
And I learned that from a very young age, and I tapped into that frequency, and that's what really helped me to, start generating income when I was very, very young. And that's what gave me the drive to just always want to find a way to, create my own space. And it kind of set the platform for what we're doing here today.
Amazing. So, were there any like really defining moments growing up that shaped you to the person you are now, do you feel?
I don't know if it would be like a particular defining moment, but I would say that my mother, she was the person that kind of pushed me along on the entrepreneurial journey, and she really encouraged me to, be able to create my own income. My father was a working man, and maybe that had something to do with it because my father worked really hard. My mother, she was a housewife, so she stayed at home with all of the boys. And my dad, he would work 12 hours a day, 7 days per week. I know that that sounds ridiculous and it sounds crazy, but when you have a big family, that's what he had to do to provide. So even though he was a provider, he wasn't really there to nurture us or to, take care of us in a manner in the capacity that my mother was. So I think that's what kind of made me look at, the life that he was living, the lifestyle that, he had to go through himself. And it made me kind of want to look for a different path so that I could be a part of my children's lives. I could be a part of their upbringing and I could, have an impact in their lives and different things like that.
Mm. Yeah, I was just going to ask you what values were deeply instilled in you through your family and culture and faith, and you partly kind of tapped into that there, but is there anything else you want to share about that?
I would say I definitely learned, hard work from my father, watching his work ethic and, how he was, basically, single-handedly providing for everyone. And he was still able to accomplish things that most people are not able to accomplish without having a two-income household. He moved us from the small town of Palo Alto that I mentioned before, and he ended up buying a house in Fremont, California. And Fremont, at one time, was like one of the safest cities in America. They had a statistic that I just saw from one of my friends that he posted it on Facebook. And it said that out of all of the cities in the United States, Fremont is the richest city in America right now. So I guess that's a huge accomplishment for a person that just worked really hard and didn't have, additional support from a financial standpoint to be able to purchase a home in an area like that.
Mm,
So he showed me what it means to work hard, and that basically, if you work hard, you can still make some big accomplishments and you
mm.
can achieve some of your life goals.
Absolutely. And obviously, as an entrepreneur and being a leader, you also have to work hard. Do you think that you always meant to be a leader and entrepreneur, or is it something that you sort of grown into over time?
I would say I feel like I was really meant to be an entrepreneur. Because from a very young age, I started to generate my own income. Once I got a little bit older, I talked a little bit about my musical journey. and the type of artists that I collaborated with. But once I started to have children, I realized that I wanted to be a better role model. So I tried to go into the regular working space. And ironically, I had the same type of job that my father had. He was a machinist. And, for a time period of my life, I was actually a machinist as well. I used to run like CNC machines and different things like that. And it really didn't fulfill me, so to speak. And it wasn't really long on that journey before I got myself back into entrepreneurship. You could just imagine when you go from creating your own income, having success in the musical sphere, working with some of the elites in that space, and then going back to working a regular job is something that's really hard to fathom. So I was really searching for something, but I just didn't know how to find it.
Mm.
And one day I ran into a man, and his name is Jamil, and he was the person that was responsible for bringing me into network marketing. And I still work with him to this day, and he's a part of the company that we're both involved with. So it's kind of crazy how things go full circle. But the thing about this gentleman is that he actually showed me what was possible because, me working a regular job, I meet this guy who tells me that he's in network marketing. And he said that he was living in Sacramento, which is about 2 hours from the San Francisco Bay Area. And he said that he wanted to move to the Bay Area, which is very expensive. So I took him around to some places that I thought that he could afford. I guess I was prejudging him and things like that. But to my surprise, when he ended up moving to the Bay Area, he moved in the same city where my father lived, which is called Fremont, California, but he moved way up into the hills by where MC Hammer used to live. So that was something that kind of blew me away because these are multi-million-dollar homes. And this was a person who had 6 children. He had a wife. No one was working in the household, and he was doing network marketing 100%. So for me to have a person like this bring me into the space, it kind of brought my belief level up to understand like what the potential is and what type of lifestyle you can provide yourself with by working on your own and just leveraging your network. So it was a powerful experience for me. And I think that's what kind of, super glued me into this industry and kind of sealed my faith to understand like what's really actually possible.
Mm. Amazing. As you say, sometimes life has a way to sort of go in a full circle again, isn't it? Amazing, really,
It
when that
does.
happens. Yeah. Hey, you have spoken, I've heard you've spoken about some health challenges before. Can
Yes.
you share a little bit about that journey and how it impacted your life mentally, physically, and spiritually?
Absolutely. And I appreciate you, bringing this topic to the podcast because it is something that's very important. When I was about 11 years old, I was riding my bike. I was hanging out with some friends, and boys when they're young, they're very they get into things, right? So, we were kind of fixing our brakes on our bicycles and different things like that. And we got kind of modifying our bikes. And once we left from my friend Eric's house, I was going to go across the street and I was actually hit by a vehicle. I think it was like a 59 Chevy. And it hit me while I was riding my bicycle. And it hit me pretty hard. I went up into the air, came down, and this person that actually hit me, he kind of took off, so he wasn't really around. And I was there on the ground with my bicycle, and I just didn't know what to do at that point because I was just a little kid. So I grabbed my bicycle, I walked back to the home, and my house was really close. I was probably on the same block from where I was living at that point. And, my father, of course, like I mentioned before, he was working a job, so he wasn't home. So I told my mother I was in a lot of pain and I think that I need to go see a doctor. So we had to call my father, who was working at the time. Of course, he had to leave from his job and he had to come back, pick me up, and take me to the hospital. Once they ran the x rays and they did all the tests on me, they figured out that I actually had broken my femur bone. So, can you imagine an 11-year-old child getting hit by a car, 59 Chevy, walking back home with a broken femur bone, carrying his bike. That was me, right? And they ended up putting me in a full body cast, so I wasn't really able to move. I had to be in a wheelchair that laid back and reclined and get pushed around, and I was in that condition for several weeks. My teachers had to come and basically tutor me from home. I wasn't able to go to school or do anything like that. So that was something that was a major, I guess you could say, milestone in my life, or a turning point, where from that point, because of that incident, I ended up being in a lot of pain. I still remember the day when they took me back to the hospital to remove the cast. I was not able to walk at all. My father literally had to pick me up. He had to carry me to the car. I had to go through a lot of physical therapy. I had to learn how to walk all over again and different things like that. So from that point, growing up, I felt like I was fine. Of course, when you're young, you don't realize, what that type of injury can do to you. But as I got into my 20s and I got into my 30s, I realized that I had a lot of, back pain. I had just a lot of, pain and tension in my body. So I would go back to the hospitals, and I went back through physical therapy again. The doctors, all they did was give me medications after medications, huge bottles of ibuprofen, 800 milligrams, and, different pain muscle relaxers just to be able to go to sleep at night and different things like that. And that was pretty much my condition for a very, very long time. And I started to search and look for different ways that I could heal myself holistically. I remember one day I asked the doctor, I said, is there any solution that you have for me besides taking all of these different medications? I'm in fear that this could like damage my organs, my liver, or my kidneys or something like that if I continue to keep on taking all of these pain relievers. And she said, no, there wasn't a solution for me. So the good news was I stumbled across something from the same person that brought me into network marketing named Jamil. One day he actually gave me a phone call, and he told me that he had found something. And when I looked at his eyes, I just seen like his eyes were like beaming and he had so much energy. And he told me that, he felt like Spider-Man or something like that. Like he felt like he had spider senses and things like that, right? So I said, what is it that you're taking right now? He said, it's something that works with the limbic part of your brain, and it's something that's called quantum wellness. And he said, I'm going to come over to your house right now. He said, I'm going to give you $100. You're going to go put it into the bank account, and then you're going to go sign up with me, right? It was $100 subscriptional network marketing company. And he knew that if I was going to come in, even though I had the money to do it, it was going to take a lot to convince me, because this was something that was kind of woo woo, so to speak, right? And I had never done anything like that. So I tried it, and this company, this was around 2019 when I got involved with this company, and it didn't have any type of physical product. It was actually called Energy Information, and they had this app where you can download all of these different applications. Some of them were for like pain relief. Some of them were for helping your body rejuvenate itself, energy, focus, all of these different things. So I was thinking like, okay, what do I have to lose? I'm going to put it on pain relief. I'm going to put it on energy. And there was another app that was called Prosperity. So I put on these applications, and I still remember we're walking around at the mall and different things, and I'm doing Facebook Live videos, and I could actually feel a shift. I could actually feel that something was happening with me, right? And I know that it sounds kind of crazy that an application on your phone can download energy information from an application to the limbic part of your brain, and that you can actually feel some energy information. But that was my first introduction into holistic health. And at the time, it was what was really helping me to manage my pain and deal with those issues that, I suffered with from being hit by a car.
Mm.
I ended up becoming the number three income earner in that company because of, my story. And I was able to help a lot of people. We're still involved in that company right now. So we've been in that company for several years, and we still have people that are subscribed to it because it works for them. And the quantum wellness is something that was a powerful introduction to holistic health for me.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, it's incredible how injuries can shape our perspective, hey, on life and wellness and in general, hey. I was going to say that, so just having that injury that obviously impacted you a lot, how did it change your perspective on wellness and particularly on frequency today?
It really did change my perspective because, I grew up just like most Americans, we're just told to go to the doctor when you have an issue, and, they give you a subscription, prescription and different things like that. And sometimes the subscriptions are never ending. But
Mm,
once I did tap into this frequency, it really helped me to get off of all of those medications. And I know that it sounds crazy, but I've even tested it out on my children because some people will say it's a placebo. This can't work, right? But we had an application on this device which is called Sleep, and I would have the way that it worked is that you would speak into it for 10 seconds into the app, and your voice has a powerful frequency that would allow this application to download this energy information into your body. So even when my kids were very, very young, I know that some parents they use like melatonin and different things like that to put their kids to sleep. And because I was using this holistic technology, I wasn't into any type of I guess you could say drugs or anything given to my children to get them to go to sleep at night. So I had my son go ahead and say some things into this application. I put on the sleep app, and he would go out like a light. And I was thinking to myself, a kid doesn't even understand what this technology is, doesn't understand what it can do to their body. So there's no way that this could actually be a placebo. And for me, it was proof that the frequency was actually working. So that was really, really powerful for me. But just for me to go from the state that I was in, where I was suffering, I was in so much pain, I was taking all of these different medications that were being subscribed to me. And then for me to go into a quantum wellness space and for me to be able to relieve myself from all of that, it was a complete transformation. And that's what really got me into frequency.
mm. Amazing, amazing. Yeah. Um, Before we step into the more the frequency world, you were involved, in this online marketing and crypto space. So
Yes.
tell me a little bit more again, what really attracted you into that space?
Your timing is just spot on and perfect. So actually, right after I was involved in this company where I was doing the quantum wellness, like I said, I became the number three income earner in that company. And, I was actually kind of swept off of my feet from crypto around that time where I was at the pinnacle of my success in that company. And for those who know about cryptocurrency, you've probably heard that you can make a lot of money in the cryptocurrency space. And there was a brand new company that had came out, and I had a friend of a friend who was involved in that company. He was a good friend of my partner Jamel, and he actually got him involved into that company. And Jamil was the person that sponsored me. So he wanted me to get involved in that opportunity with him. He just said, we're not really making enough money over here. Even though we're top income earners in the company, we can go into this crypto world and we can make so much more money, right? And who doesn't want to make more money? Everyone wants to make a little bit more. So I decided to go into this opportunity with him, and lo and behold, I ended up making about $250,000 in just about 6 months with this opportunity. And it went really, really fast. And it just got to the point where we were making so much money in the crypto space we kind of started to neglect the opportunity that we had with quantum wellness. And it kind of became the Achilles heel for me, I guess you could say, because from that point, I shifted from being in the quantum wellness space to being involved in cryptocurrency for several years. And it just went from one project to the next, to the next, to the next. And I was able to make over seven figures in that space. But it was very hard to find a company that was long term. I had some companies that I was involved with that lasted for about 3 years. And that's a really good run in the cryptocurrency space. But over time, because the market got so saturated and there became so many more projects that would come out, um, it was almost like the companies were in competition with themselves, and the lifespan of the companies went from being around from 3 to 4 years to like 2 years. Then it became like 1 year, and these days you'll be lucky if you even find a company that can last for 1 year. If you can find a company that lasts for a year these days in the crypto space, that's considered a legacy company. And I know that sounds funny, because when we think about a legacy company, you think about something that's been around for like 10 plus years or something like that. I don't want to name any names here, but there's several companies that probably come to your mind.
Mm.
But yeah, that's just not the case. So, what happened for me was I got to the point where I didn't want to be involved in that industry anymore, because I'm what some people would call an empath. And I know that a lot of the listeners understand exactly what I'm talking about. An empath is a person that can feel the pain and the emotions of other people and what they're going through. So I made so much money in that space, but some of those companies had very bad endings where
Mm.
some people ended up losing large amounts of money.
Mm.
And when that happened, it put me into, I don't want to say a downhill spiral, but it put me through an emotional roller coaster where I could no longer sleep at night, because it doesn't matter if I make a lot of money. If there's other people that are going to suffer behind an opportunity that I'm involved in and that I brought them into, I feel very, very responsible. So I got to the point where I started to look for other ways that I could generate income, which were outside of the crypto space.
Mm.
And the first thing that I got myself involved in when I decided to go back outside of crypto, because I was involved in that space for about 5 to 6 years very consistently, it was a travel opportunity. And I thought to myself, it looks really, really good. I think that I could probably generate the same type of income that I used to make in the crypto space. And I pretty much went all in with that opportunity. And this was a little bit over 2 years ago when I decided to go on that journey.
Mm. Amazing. Amazing. So, all these experiences you've had, Malik, what has it taught you about freedom and leadership and people?
Freedom, leadership, and people. That's a great question. I would say that sometimes when you deal with certain opportunities, you may have a lot of freedom, but the leadership is really not there, and the quality of the good heartedness of people is not there at all. Me being in that space, I got to go very high up. I've done some amazing things. I've been to several different countries. I've been to a lot of yacht parties. I've been to like really big events all over the world and different things like that. But what I discovered was that at the very top in some of those type of opportunities, the people, their hearts, they just seemed like they were like blackened and they were like tainted, right? They weren't really people that had good hearts or that really cared about people. And that just really didn't resonate with me. And that was one of the main reasons that, I just didn't feel like I was a fit for that space. And, people used to tell me, like, with my good nature and the type of qualities that I have, it was a very dangerous space for me to be in. So when I think about those things, as far as, leadership and, and the quality of people, I found that in other opportunities that I'm involved in now. And that's the reason why I kind of stuck with this. Even though I'm making a lot less money than what I used to make in the past, just being able to sleep good at night, being able to make an impact in other people's lives, and working with servant hearted leaders that really care about people. I believe that's really what defines leadership to me.
Mm. I was just going to ask you, Malek, do you feel that entrepreneurship can become a spiritual journey and a path of, real personal growth?
Absolutely. I think it is. And I think that you just hit the nail on the head. For me, that's kind of what it's been because, when you look at entrepreneurship, especially in the network marketing space, what I learned from my mentors is that network marketing is pretty much like personal development when a compliment with a compensation plan attached to it, right? And it really helps you better yourself. I feel like I probably wouldn't be who I am right now if it wasn't for me being in this space and all of the personal development, all of the mentors that I've been able to work with. And it's really helped me to become like the best version of myself, so to speak. So it's definitely been a very, very spiritual journey. And that's the reason why I really like the traditional side of network marketing. But I think that there's always going to be a bright side of everything, and there's always going to be a dark side. And
Mm,
I think I've pretty much seen both sides of the coin, so to speak. And the spiritual journey that I've been on has actually brought me back to frequency all over again. Because when I was involved in that company back in 2019, it really wasn't about the money. It was really about just serving people, helping people, um, giving people a better quality of life. It was about the stories that we created, and it was about the amount of people that we can actually help. So that was something that felt good to me. And I got away from that for a very, very long period of time. So I felt like, if I can get back to that point again, it would take me back to where I wanted to be personally on this spiritual journey and on this spiritual path. That I've been on during all of my years that I've been in this industry. And I've been in this industry for a total of 9 years. On July 12th, I'll actually hit my 10-year anniversary. So it's been a very, very long journey. And sometimes it takes a while before you actually find your calling and you actually find the type of opportunity that truly resonates with you and that really fulfills you from a spiritual standpoint.
mm. It's so good to hear because it's all that. That it's taken you 10 years and now you feel you have that, fulfillment, which is amazing. We're all looking for that, I think. And I want to talk a little bit more about frequency because it can mean so many things to so many people. What does raising your frequency mean to you personally?
So raising your frequency to me, it means elevating your vibration, right? And everything is a vibration and everything is a frequency, right? And you can put off good vibes or you can put off bad vibes, right? Sometimes you can just walk past a person and you can just feel their energy and you can feel their vibration is just off, right? So I think that's what the personal development side did for me was that it helped me to actually raise my frequency and raise my vibration and kind of elevate my status so that when they actually feel my vibration, it would be something that most people would gravitate towards versus something that repels people away. It's just like sometimes when you have a person that has a bad spirit and they walk into a room, you can actually feel that presence of that dark energy that's actually moving through the room, right? And
Mm,
there's certain tools, certain protocols, certain practices, like I used to do meditation. I used to, work one-on-one with different mindset coaches and different things like that. And when you do some of these different modalities or some of these different protocols, the whole intention of it is for you to be able to raise your frequency and raise your vibration. And when you're on that right frequency, you can become a person that's actually in alignment, where you become an attractive person. So you attract the type of things that you really want into your life. So I believe that's what being on the right vibration is. I used to grow up thinking that you really had to work hard in order to um, make money and different things like that. But what I've discovered over the years is that if you're in tune with the right frequency and the right vibration, you can actually attract a lot of different abundance into your life. And
Mm,
abundance can mean a number of things. Like when we say abundance, it doesn't just mean money. It can mean, freedom, freedom of choices, being able to travel. Like last year, I went to 11 different countries and I moved to Panama a year and a half ago. I walk outside, the weather's great, palm trees. I don't have to have a job. I have two homes that are right next door to each other. And this home that I'm actually in right now, I just have a vibrational wellness setup inside of the living area. I have a prayer room where I do my prayers and my meditation. I have a gym and I have my office, right? So for me, that kind of describes like what abundance can actually be. It doesn't have to be in the form of dollar bills, but just having the freedom to be able to wake up without an alarm clock, to have the ability to be able to travel, to go wherever you want without having to ask a boss for permission or anything like that. I feel that raising up your frequency and your vibration gives you the ability to live that type of lifestyle, and that's what abundance means to me. And I believe that if everyone out there that's listening to this podcast, when you raise your vibration and you get into that state, then you can actually tap in to these higher levels of abundance, so to speak.
mm. Yeah, it's all to do with vibrations, say, and the state we're in. And I guess that's the thing. That's a beautiful thing when we got tools and the understanding of how frequency actually works, where we can really change our lives around. So, Malek, why do you think so many people right now are feeling disconnected and really tired and they feel really stuck in a survival mode? Why do you think so many people are there right now?
Well, me living in Panama, it kind of opened up my eyes to one of the reasons why. Living here in Panama, people are very connected with nature. We have a lot of different trees here. We have beaches. We're very connected with nature. Like when you go to a beach and you just walk on that sand barefoot, you feel that connection to the earth and you feel like you're very grounded in nature, right?
Mm,
And I think that this is something that a lot of people are disconnected with, especially, from my past and the way that I grew up, San Francisco. I don't know if anyone on listening to this podcast has been there, but San Francisco is kind of like a concrete jungle. The houses are literally like connected to each other, right? So there's very little space there to do anything, to go into nature or to be connected with the earth or anything like that. So I think that sometimes being in those type of surroundings and also living in a rat race, so to speak, where it's constant like hustle, hustle, grind, and you're always just trying to figure out how you can pay your bills, how you can make ends meet, and different things like that. It puts a lot of stress on people and it creates even more disconnection. So me being here, it kind of opened up my eyes to that because living in a place where you just surrounded by beautiful trees, palm trees, like I have fruits and different things that are growing in my front yard, and here you can literally go down the street and you can go pick up a coconut that has coconut water in it, and they'll just cut it right open and just give it to you, right, which is some of the best water that you can actually drink. So having all of these different things here, it kind of really opened up my eyes to how so many people are disconnected. And it's also the things that people are putting into their bodies as well. Because some of the things that you put into your body, you may not understand it, but it's put there for it to actually lower your vibration and to kind of subdue your consciousness and keep you from elevating to that higher level. So you have to be very conscious of all of those different things. But I think being connected with nature is one of the biggest ones, and
mm.
that's why I'm so thankful and grateful that I'm in a place right now where I can drive a couple of minutes down the road and I can be at a beach or I can be at a river. I can watch a waterfall. I think that all of those things really keep you grounded, so to speak.
Amazing. And no doubt you live in paradise, Malek. I have to come and visit one day. It just sounds absolutely amazing. I'm so nature connected myself. Um, but you also tapped into, the community. And I really truly believe that community and the environment plays a big role in transformation as well. And you really covered that as well in some ways, didn't you? That how important that is for our
It
frequency
really
as
is.
well. Yeah, yeah.
It really is because it's a collective consciousness, right?
Mm,
And when you have a collective group that are conscious, it actually helps to raise the vibration of all of the different people that are around them.
mm,
And I believe that when you have a positive thought and you have a positive feeling, then you're contributing to raising the vibration of people all across the world, right?
mm,
So just imagine if you have a community that you're a part of where everyone's on that collective consciousness and everyone's on a super high vibration, it just helps everyone maintain that state, and then it attracts other people that want to be a part of that vibration. So community is something that's very, very important. Sometimes it's very difficult for you to maintain a vibration when you're all by yourself and you're on your own. And I
mm,
know this from personal experience because, like I said, a few years ago, when I was still living in the United States, I was doing all of this mindset work. I was trying to work on myself so much, and I was trying to negate all of the negative vibrations that were around me. But I didn't have a very strong community to keep me safe, so to speak, at that point. And when you don't have that comfort zone and you don't have that safe space of a community, when you go outside, you get bombarded with all of these different conflicting energies and things like that. So I think it's very, very important to actually have a close-knit community that you can be a part of and always be around those people, always keep those people close to you. Whenever you're speaking with those people, you're engaging with those people, you have conversations with those people, then you kind of keep that same frequency intact and you have a lesser chance of those spiritual attacks because you have a close knit community around you to keep you safe.
mm, mm, mm. Absolutely. So, how do you personally stay really grounded while you're building this global, community and leading these community? Just a couple of things, Malek, that really keeps you grounded. What do you do to keep grounded?
Well, I still do a lot of meditation and mindset in the morning time, and that's something that keeps me very, very grounded. And before I reach to go get my cell phone, look at my messages, or do anything like that, I make sure that I stay tapped in and connected to what some people will call the source or God or whatever you want to call it, right? So that's pretty much a part of my practice every single day in the morning time. When I get up, I make sure that I keep myself connected and I keep myself grounded on a regular basis. So it's several hours before I actually like get a cell phone and get myself connected to social media or any of those type of things. But I start my day with mindset, meditation, and making sure that I have a direct connection.
Mm,
And one of the things that really helped me to go to the next level is some of the frequency tools that we have at our disposal right now, because I was already doing my mindset, I was already doing meditation, I was already doing personal development for so many years. But when you combine it with powerful frequencies, it seems like that energy, you can just take it in and it just actually becomes a part of you. It's not something that's abstract, where it's like you're listening to an audio or you're listening to some, sound music or whatever the case that's putting you on a higher frequency. But it's not like you're listening to it, but it's actually like it's becoming a part of you and it's becoming a part of your essence. So I think that it kind of, 10x all of the different things that I was doing. And it really helped me to keep myself even more grounded than I've ever been in the past. And just go to a whole new level of awareness, so to speak.
mm, mm. I know that you're a man of faith as well, Malek, and I could hear that with what you were sharing too. That's obviously played a big part of your journey as well, having faith, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
Mm,
I think that, that's one of the things that's really helped me out so much is to have my faith and have my direct connection, and making sure that I keep that connection as strong as possible. So that's the reason why one of the things that I have at my second home over here is a prayer room, right? So
Mm,
I can go into that room and, I can make sure that, I have that direct connection and I have a space that's, totally separate from any other space where I can keep that energy and that aura inside of that particular space. So
mm,
I think that that's something that I didn't have before that I have now that helps me stay grounded even more. And it keeps me more aware, it keeps me more conscious. It makes me a better human being. And it makes me more aware of the way that I treat people, my interactions with people, and just making sure that I'm a person of good character. And I think that that's something that's very, very important to me. But like you mentioned, the faith plays a major role in my behavior and, my actions and my day-to-day way of life, so to speak.
absolutely. Um, Now let's talk a little bit about the frequency movement. Why do you believe that, this frequency movement is a space that's growing so incredibly quickly around the world? We both are involved in this amazing community that's all about frequency and wellness. Why do you think it's growing so quickly?
I think the main reason is that frequency is something that can be felt. And I think that when people actually feel that something is happening to them, I think it's something that cannot be stopped, right? When you have something that you tap into and you feel that it's putting you on a higher frequency, is putting you on a higher vibration, and you actually feel a shift in your consciousness. Sometimes you have like a paradigm shift, you feel like you're in alignment, you feel like different things are happening into your life because of being on this frequency. And I think that's one of the reasons that it's moving so quickly, because when people use these different frequency devices, they're going to feel something each and every time,
Mm,
and it's something that's really undeniable. If someone doesn't feel something, it's probably because they're a little bit older. Maybe they have a lot of things that they have to work on to clear themselves before they can actually feel something. So for some people, not everyone's going to have the same experience. For some people, it may take a little bit longer. But for the average person that's, able-bodied and healthy, once they tap into these frequencies, they're going to feel something automatically. And I have a lot of people that I've been able to witness personally that have benefited from these frequencies, and the changes that I've been able to see and the shifts that they've been able to have in their lives are just something that's really undeniable. Just like I mentioned for myself, all the pain and suffering that I had to go through from several years before I actually tapped into some type of frequency wellness and what it was able to do for me. Now we have something that's 10 times better than what I was talking about previously because it's a physical product. The thing
mm,
that I talked about before, the difference between that and what we have now is that some people can automatically dismiss it. They could say, this isn't real, this is woo-woo, this is just a placebo. There's all type of things that you can say about it. But when you have a physical product that you actually tap into that's using a frequency, it's something that's even more powerful. And the funny part about it is I still am friends and I'm still connected to a lot of people that were in the previous company. And it was just a virtual product. So we connected in a virtual world. And now with this physical product, what I'm seeing is that we're actually connected in a physical form. I have some people that I've known online for 7 years, 8 years, even almost 10 years, as long as I've been in the industry. And we never met in real life. We never met in person. But once we tapped into this frequency, it actually brought us together in real life. So I believe that that's something that's just powerful in itself, how you could be totally disconnected in a so-called matrix in a virtual world. And then all of a sudden you tap into some frequencies with a physical product, and then you're coming together in the physical form. I think it's kind of symbolic, so to speak.
absolutely. There's something real powerful with that. And there are a lot of like skeptics out there with the other things that are actually there's no products attached to it. But what we've got is something that people can actually feel the frequency with. So I was just sitting here thinking, what would you say to someone that is skeptical? But you kind of answered that question that we now have this product that people can really feel the energies and it's really working so very well. I want to kind of ask you a question from a point
Sure.
from someone that is feeling really financially stuck, that are not in your position. They may also feel emotionally stuck, maybe also physically. What would you say to encourage them, Malek?
That's a great question. I think that when it comes to being financially stuck, it really starts with your mindset. And I know that a lot of times, the way that some of us were raised, they told us that money doesn't grow on trees. You need to go work hard. You need to get a job. You need to go to college and all of these different things, right? And some people have a misconception of, the ways that you can actually create income and money. And I think that the pandemic that most of us had to go through, I think the whole entire world went through that pandemic. I think it kind of created a global shift where some of the people realized that, their jobs were lost. They needed to figure out other ways that they can create income. And it helped to kind of shift that mindset for them. But I think the first thing that you have to work on, if you are in that stuck position and you're feeling like you just can't get ahead, is to first work on your mindset. Start to dive into some personal development and start to break some of those generational curses that you may be going through. Because a lot of that stuff is just baggage that was passed down from generation to generation. And you might not realize it, but that's the reason why you may be stuck where you are right now. And sometimes, increasing your frequency will also help you to shift that mindset and have that paradigm shift that you're looking for. A lot of people that are feeling stuck right now are people that are looking for something and they just don't actually know what the solution is. And I believe that the frequency technology that we're all a part of right now is one of the best ways that you can actually pick yourself up from a very low vibration and a low frequency and start to elevate that frequency where you start to think more positive. Your mood actually starts to change. You start to see things differently. Maybe some of the things that happen in your life that you may think are bad, or some of the traumas that you've had in your life that are holding you back from going to the next level. Maybe you may let those things go. And those things could be some of the things that are holding you back right now. So
Mm,
I would say that mindset is definitely something that's important. But even if you have the right mindset, if you're working a job and you're working for someone else, you're always going to be in a salary cap, right? And it's funny that some people call the industry that I'm a part of and I've been a part of for almost 10 years, they call it, some people say it's a pyramid or something like that, right? Now, think about the job system and how much of a pyramid that is, right? You're all the way at the bottom. You're like a worker, blue collar, white collar, whatever, right? You have a boss that's over you, you have a CEO that's above you, and you'll never make as much money as your boss. You'll never make as much money as the supervisor, the CEO, or however many levels you go up. So that's the biggest pyramid to me. And I think that, as long as you're kind of stuck in that system, you're always gonna, make it to a certain point. And that's the reason why a job is called just over broke, right? And Robert Kiyosaki, I listen to him from time to time, and he said that the paycheck is worse than drugs. I don't want to say the name that he said on your podcast, but he said that it's worse than drugs because when you're working a job, you have to wait every single 2 weeks to get paid, and by the time that you get paid, you have so many bills and you have so many things that you have to take care of that you're happy as long as you can get a slice of pizza on Friday or go to a movie or buy something for yourself. And a lot of times people are spending money that they don't even have to just make themselves feel comfortable with the lifestyle that they have to live, unfortunately. So mindset is number one. And the second thing is that you have to find a vehicle for yourself where you can generate additional income. Now, I'm not here to, totally speak down on jobs because everything has its place. I used to have a job. When I came into this industry, I was working a job at the same time, right? but I was open to other ways of making money because I was growing up as an entrepreneur. So I would say first work on your mindset and then keep yourself open. Look for other opportunities where you can generate additional revenue for yourself that don't involve having a salary cap. And that's why I love the industry of network marketing. My belief has been solid in this industry from day one because of the mentor that actually brought me into the space. And I truly believe as long as you have the right mindset and you don't look at it as some type of lottery ticket or some type of get rich type of situation, and you just work on yourself, you develop yourself, and you realize that if you can actually, um, share something to your network, and if that network starts to grow, it can literally change your life and you can actually set yourself free, and not just yourself, but the generations that are coming after you as well.
Mm, mm. Such amazing sharing, Malek. I'm sitting here going, I was going to ask you a question. What does creating impact truly mean to you? But you've just demonstrated all of that by what you said, because you are truly creating amazing impact by what you're doing and how you're leading. So I'm going to ask you instead, if you could leave the audience with one message today, what would it be?
Okay, that's a tough question. So, if I could leave you with one thing, I would say that, um, energy is everything, right? And, when your energy is good, you're going to have good things that are coming into your life. So that's something that you always want to focus on because your disciplines, your behavior, your mood, your family, your life, everything is dependent on energy. And just like we talked about in the very beginning, right now we're in a state where a lot of people, their energy is down. They're feeling drained. It doesn't matter how much sleep they get at night. They wake up feeling tired. They have so much stress. And it's all because their energy is just a little bit off, right?
Mm,
And I think that if you can just work on that energy and you can actually get yourself into a higher state and a higher vibration, a lot of things that you're going through in your life right now, they can definitely change for the better. And you'll be on that other side and you'll actually understand what it feels like to have that abundance that you actually want to have in your life and whatever that means for you. Abundance means different things to different people, right? For some people, having abundance may mean, making $100,000 per year. For some people, it may just be able to travel the world, to take cruises, and to do all of those type of things, right? But I'm here to tell you that if you have the right energy, you can literally have the life that you've always dreamed of, right? And that's why when people ask me how I'm doing, the only thing that I can tell them is that I'm living the dream. But this dream that I'm living may not be your dream, but this is my dream. And you can live your dreams as well. But it all starts with being on that right energy, that right frequency, and that right vibration. And I strongly believe that some of the tools that you and I are using to enhance our frequency and enhance our vibration, I think a lot of people should tap into it, try it for yourself, see how it can actually work for you and how it can actually shift things in your life. Because the person that actually brought me into these frequency tools, his name is Luigi. He's a good friend of mine. I knew him before he actually made a lot of money in network marketing. He used to be a struggling car salesman, right? And the reason why me and him are so close is because he reached out to me one day and he told me about an opportunity that he had. And he said that this opportunity is going to generate a lot of money. I was doing affiliate marketing at the time and I was doing pretty well. And he said, this opportunity is going to change everything for you and your family. And guess what? I didn't take advantage of the opportunity. I sat on the fence. Luigi went to go make millions and millions of dollars, right? And then after he made millions of dollars, the same thing that I talked about previously is he went up very, very high, but he was around the wrong crowd and it brought his vibration down and he came spiraling back down, to where he was before, right? But even worse than that, he had to go through depression. And I used to call him up as a friend just to check on Luigi to make sure that he was going to be okay because his frequency was off, right? And when he actually got himself tapped into these frequencies that we're a part of right now, I watched him go from, being in a very, very dark place, being depressed, and basically being stuck in a loop of bad things that had happened to him in the past. And that's all he used to talk about. But after a month using the technology, I watched everything shift for him. And that was what actually got me to go ahead and purchase one of the devices for myself. And when you look at Luigi now, he's someone who's completely changed. He really shifted his mindset and he went from being a person that was, a regular car salesman struggling network marketing for, several years to going up really high, crashing back down, tapping into frequency and getting himself back to what is his dream for himself right now. And now we're actually traveling the world. We're having a lot of fun together. We're making a huge impact on people globally. I was even able to meet you, Karin. It was a pleasure to be able to meet you in Singapore and also Xiamen, China. And these are things that I probably thought was impossible growing up. Coming from a place called Palo Alto, which is a city that's 2.5 square miles, I never imagined myself to be traveling the world and meeting people like yourself. But this is what can happen when you actually step into the right frequency and you're open and you actually shift your energy. It could take you to higher levels that you've never even dreamed of before. So I just wanted to close it out with that story so that you guys can understand the power of frequency and the impact that it can actually make on your life. And that, just like I touched on before, energy is everything.
And it is the best thing you could possibly say because I was sitting here thinking before, what is the last question I can ask Malek? And what came to me was, what do you believe humanity needs right now? And you've just answered that question. And it is really the right energy that we need, that is to raise our consciousness with the right energy, hey? And, nothing, I want to close up saying to the listeners too, nothing happens by coincidence. We come into a space through being drawn in with the right frequencies, and I feel absolutely, completely aligned with everything we have spoken about today and what you shared. So there's absolutely no coincidence why we're sitting here. And who would have thought that when I met you in Xiamen, China, and Singapore, I would be sitting here doing this interview with you, uh, Malek. And I know that our future is going to be a future of travel and being able to impact so many lives around the world. So I'm very, very grateful for have had you part of my podcast here. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And if anyone want to get in contact with either of us, all the details will be in the description of this podcast, wherever you find it, if it is on any of the podcast platforms like Spotify or Podbean or maybe YouTube. Feel free to reach out to either of us and have a chat. Would like to hear from you. So thank you so much again, Malek.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on. It's been an honor and a pleasure. And just like I said, energy is everything. I felt your energy and your positive vibrations when we met each other in the physical form. And look at us now. We were able to collaborate on this phenomenal podcast today. So it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you again. Thanks.